CRC week. Me and Zach are about to be heading to DC along with a few thousand college athletes, coaches, referees.
So many amazing things happen at these tournaments on every field. It's just like it blows my mind every year.
It is going to be the epicenter of college rugby this week for sure.
Just watch as many games as you can.
Maryland Soccerplex is going to be pumping this weekend.
It's the biggest college rugby sevens tournament of the year. How could you miss it?
Welcome to U.S. Rugby Happy Hour Live. Interviews with the biggest names in American rugby.
Third consecutive MLR championship. And Team USA make history in Paris.
USA Rugby is heading to Australia.
Here are your hosts, Bill Baker and that other guy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to U.S. Rugby Happy Hour. John Fitzpatrick, how the heck are you?
Bill Berg, I'm doing great. How the heck are you?
I'm doing wonderful, man. I'm excited. It's a big weekend coming up. Hopefully Free Jacks get a win. We're not talking about MLR, though. I just want to get that in there. They're going to get a win. Second, I'm really excited about today because we've got some college, not just some college rugby. We've got some championship college rugby to talk about, Fitzy. Mm-hmm. I know you've been immersed in or really taking it in even more than I have. How are you? You excited about this weekend?
Absolutely. I've been to the College Rugby Championship a few times. Sadly, I moved away from Maryland, now on the West Coast. But yeah, it's the biggest college rugby sevens tournament of the year. How could you miss it? Why would you fly?
Oh, I know. No kidding. And Maryland Soccerplex is going to be pumping this weekend. Hopefully the rain holds off, which I understand might be a little bit Saturday, but who knows? I mean, it makes it for fun, right? A little muddier and all that fun stuff. Fitzy, let's do this. Let's get into it. Again, our two guests are waiting for us in the green room. Probably inhaling all our treats we give them, smelling the flowers. Orchids, I think, are big this time of year. I'm not sure, but I know that's in the green room. But before we do that, listeners, viewers, please like, follow, and subscribe to this podcast or recording on YouTube, Facebook. Please comment, share this with friends and family. Get the word out. We're about to talk about a lot of, well, not every college team. There's a lot of college teams involved. We won't talk about them all. But we're about to get into that too. Share the show with any of your college friends and anybody else. And as usual, we shall introduce our guests via a tune.
This weekend, DC welcomes 144 teams, 8 divisions, Premier, D1, AA, D2, D3.
Yeah.
The 16th annual Collegiate Rugby Championship, College Rugby Sevens, biggest tournament! Let's welcome to the show, National Collegiate Rugby, Pat Clifton and Zach Lanning.
And there they are, live on camera. Gentlemen, Pat, Zach, how are you, man?
Doing awesome. It's Collegiate Rugby Championship week. I apologize. Where I'm at, it's a little bit under construction, so deal with me as my lighting and audio might balance, but I'll do my best to level it out. But CRC week, me and Zach are about to be heading to DC along with a few thousand college athletes, coaches, referees, and it is going to be the epicenter of college rugby this week for sure.
And Zach, you're pumped, man. I know we talked briefly before we started recording, and you're just like, your head is shining. You are ready to go.
Yes, I'm fully getting groomed up, ready to just keep that. That's like what people want to see when they come to watch the college rugby show is kind of the dome and how it plays with the studio lights are a little brighter. You might not think it kind of reflects right off. So they got to put me away from the game action. But I'm even more psyched now. I that song was a banger. That was.
Yeah, we're gonna have to license that for the show.
Well, our crack staff of Jingle writers are all their initials are A and I. They're in the other room over here. They're amazing. They're amazing. And Fitzy writes all the lyrics. So if anything was wrong in there, it's okay, good. But gentlemen, again, a great weekend, like you said. DC is going to be hopping. So let's get right into it. Let's talk briefly about the qualification process. This past week on Selection Saturday revealed brackets of all 144 teams competing across 8 divisions, men and women, together, 4 each. Some teams entered at an at-large bid, while others gained entry, for winning certain tournaments. Pat, tell us how the field came together, how it was selected.
Yeah, look, I mean, there was like 60-odd tournaments that were automatic qualifiers across the country, and you won one of those, you automatically punched your ticket. And then everybody else, who didn't win one of those, hopefully built a good enough resume through those tournaments and another 60-odd or so non-qualifiers throughout the country. And there was a committee that came together and seeded it much like, March Madness. So it's kind of rugby's version of that, and the process itself mimics that as well.
Nice. So Zach, let's talk about the field. There's a number of intriguing storylines heading into this weekend's tournament. The men's side, there's the rise of what you want to call the non-traditional rugby schools, winning their divisions. Louisville, NC State, although NC State's been pretty strong. Sam Houston State. Women's side, can Brown win their fourth? Talk about some of these schools we don't usually see making a run for the title who are in the field.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great field and some non-traditional powers, like you said. I mean, the storylines really are the kind of these repeat champions. So you look at a school like Wheeling on the men's side, who've won it a few times now in a row. I think they're going for the hat trick this year, the third in a row. And they're not necessarily a sports power in general, but in rugby they've been very good, and especially in this kind of period of time on the men's side. On the women's side, you mentioned Brown already, strong Ivy League school. They're gonna win it here, but some lower potentially this year they're going for a lot in a row. But some lower division schools as well. You have a Northeastern on the women's side who are kind of going. They won the sevens last year. They won 15s in the fall. They're trying to get another sevens now in a row. So that's they're going for a lot of championships, long streak here. Coast Guard and women's D2 is another one that's looking for back-to-back championships. Not necessarily an athletic powerhouse, but they're the winners there. Endicott in women's Division 3. So there's so many schools, that like names that I love talking about as a lower division guy myself that you don't often hear mentioned, but the field is littered with them.
Just quickly for you, Pat, talking about the field of teams. Currently with the collegiate setup, is it pretty much 15s and 7s are what they have at each college, and the players play both if they want to? Or are there any collegiate programs where there's strictly a 7s program?
No, I mean, there's very few where that's the case. I mean, there's definitely been some on the women's side, more so, where it's developing programs, right? They're just getting started or restarted after COVID or a lapse, where, it's easier to get 10 for a 7s team than it is, 25 for a 15s team. So, you could see that occasionally, but it's usually just in the developmental side. But I've always thought of, that they're used to, like, there was a Simpson College from Indianola, Iowa back in the day that was trying to do that. And I've always been intrigued by it. There's Wingate, which is a new program. It's a new varsity program in North Carolina. And, the old Queens head coach who started that program is there now. And this is the first time we'll see them. So they're going to have a 15s program, but for all intents and purposes, this is their competitive debut on a national stage in 7s. So not really fitting that bill, but, kind of.
Yeah, I got you.
I want to try and take this here. We've got a number of divisions, which is awesome, right? So I think it just shows the breadth and depth of college rugby across the U.S., which is super amazing. So let's go Division 3 right quick. I know, Zach, you talked about a couple. Maybe we popcorn this a little bit. Division 3, starting on the men's side. Give me maybe your 1 to 2 contenders or maybe a dark horse. Pat, we'll start with you.
Well, look, Springfield College looks really good. They've won a couple of qualifiers, and Northeast is really dense from a talent, both quantity and quality standpoint at the Division 3 college level. So they've beat up some teams there. Also, Denver University, coached by Cody Melfi, Olympian and Sevens Eagle.
Oh, yeah.
He's done a really good job there. They have an outstanding player in Anthony Rice, who led the tournament in tries last year in his division, and he's just a lightning talent. So Denver looks like a real contender for sure.
Yeah, just to follow up, I have a couple other contenders in D3 on the men's side. You can't talk about the top of the field without talking about Slippery Rock, who have run the table in the spring in all their tournaments, and they have a chip on their shoulder after losing to conference foe Franciscan in the Fall 15s National Championship. They look very good. Another team from the Northeast, Nichols, who's kind of a burst onto the scene, in the fall season as a surprise kind of contender. They've microwaved their development there as a program, and they're out for blood, I think, here in the spring 7 season as well. They're looking very good and should push some of those top teams as well.
Staying in Division 3 on the women's side, you mentioned Endicott. They've got a strong program. What about a local favorite team? Maybe like a Loyola. Do they maybe a little dark horse? I see a little smirk from Pat there. What do you think?
Well, look, I think Loyola on the men's side maybe is a little bit more of a competitor. I think on the women's side, they've got a little bit of an uphill climb. Baldwin Wallace is, not that far away. They're from Ohio. They look really good. They've got a player, Molly Cancian, who scored 5 hat tricks in a tournament that only had 4 games earlier this season. So she's absolutely lightning and fantastic. I also think Drury, not, a team, probably a school that a lot of people haven't heard of. It's Springfield, Missouri. They've got a player, Lauren Tomlinson, who's actually was invited into the 15s Eagles camp before the Pacific Nations 4. So I think that there's some, exciting talent. East Stroudsburg's another good team that's kind of more from that Mid-Atlantic region that I think if you're looking for a hometown hero, I'd say ESU, East Stroudsburg's your best bet.
Okay.
Endicott is literally 3 miles down the road from my house. And I try to get some beautiful right on the coast of Mass, beautiful campus. Unfortunately, once you leave that campus, no one is talking about them rugby. So I'm the one walking around town going, hey, you should go to an Endicott game. They're right down the road.
Well, hey, they're looking for their 3rd Sevens natty in 4 years. So Endicott women are really a bit of a dynasty in the making.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's jump over to Division 2. Pat, we're going to stay with you. Let's go men's Division 2. Looking at UNC Wilmington are back. Can Norwich make a run for their retiring head coach? What do you think?
Well, I mean, look, Norwich. We have 2 retirement feel good stories to root for. Norwich is one. Bob Wegler's been there for like 25 years as the head coach. They're an 8 seed and they're not defending champs. UNC Wilmington. I would take something short of a miracle, I think, for Norwich to win that game. But it is sevens and crazy things happen. The other retiring coach is Seth Irwin over at IUP. He's won a couple of these things. And he's going to sail off into the sunset. I think they have a better chance in the first round against Northern Iowa, but it would still require some Cinderella type slippery, footwear type thing to make it happen.
Pat, Zach, let's jump in the women's side. Again, like Pat mentioned earlier, a lot of teams in the Northeast. Coast Guard Academy looking great again. New Hampshire, possibly?
I think so. I mean, New Hampshire is right up there with all those other contenders from the Northeast region that kind of, I mentioned this on our show, iron sharpens iron up there. You have Coast Guard. They're playing UNH all the time. They're playing Roger Williams, who I think is probably a favorite in Division 2. Fairfield, Marist. All these teams are really kind of like in the mix every spring playing each other. So would not be shocked if UNH makes a run or if it's one of those teams from the Northeast that are standing there at the end.
Yeah.
Let's jump up Ben's D1 AA here. Some interesting teams here in the mix. I mean, let's list a couple, right? NC State, Louisville, staying local-ish, right? The Mid-Atlantic region, maybe a Westchester. Pat, what are you thinking on the D1 AA men's side here? Who's a contender?
Well, NC State's the defending champ, and I think that it'd be crazy to look at them as anything other than a real contender again. But I think the favorite's probably Louisville, the other number 1 seed, who have put up some gaudy numbers this spring. Their only real loss was in the MAC championship, and I think the roster for them because they had already qualified, had plenty of tournaments under their belt, was probably not what we're going to see here in Maryland. Iowa is a team that I saw up and close in Kansas City, and they look really good. They got a player in Renheimer who I think is pretty special. Michael Johnson's a good facilitator for them. But Northeastern men here, I think, are also going to be a contender. So men's D1 AA outside of, is Louisville really that much separated from the pack and maybe NC State with them? Outside of that, I think everybody else I wouldn't be shocked to see them go on a run.
Mm-hmm. Then, Zach, speaking of Northeastern, it seems like on the women's side, they've been stacking up some titles here. Are they the odds-on favorite? Michigan, maybe? Who are we missing?
So that's a good question. I think Northeastern, for me right now, hands down, they're the team to be. And I've watched them in person this spring sevens. They hosted a qualifier a couple weekends ago, to which Michigan attended, and that was the final match. And Northeastern, I think it was a tough game for Michigan, but Northeastern really ran them off the pitch that final game. I mean, they're just so deep. They're so talented. Jolene Russo, Mir Mahmoud, Courtney Bashot-Dunner, who's an All-American, who doesn't always even get mentioned all the time. And, she's like a luxury piece for that team in Northeastern on the 7th side, and she's fast and can tackle on the wing. So they have so many playmakers on that squad that they're just – and their coaching staff is great. They have so much depth. I think Michigan – again, like I said, they kind of had a bad game in that final, but they play 5 times, 10 times. Michigan probably takes 2 or 3 of those contests. I think Anna Ramotsky, they have some good playmakers. They've had some injuries this season, which has been unfortunate for the Wolverines. They're kind of lost some speed to injury, but I think Northeastern is the team to beat. Michigan is also looking very good, but you have Iowa as well on the women's side with some really good players. They should not be counted out. They qualified very early in the spring, so we haven't talked about them as much kind of later on. But they're definitely a team to keep an eye on. But Northeastern's until somebody proves them wrong.
And Zach, let's jump to the men's Premier Cup. Last 2 years' chance. Hard to go against Wheeling for this one. St. Bonaventure, fresh off a 15s championship. Can they pull off a 7s? Or Southern Virginia University, a little Paul Asike help in there.
They're definitely the like sneaky favorite, kind of savvy pick. If you know what you're talking about, you're leaning maybe towards Southern Virginia. They have had a really good dominant season, knocking off a lot of traditional powerhouses in big time, tournament finals and semifinals. In Kutztown, they beat St. Bonaventure this regular season in the spring. So there's a potential Southern Virginia Wheeling matchup in like the Sweet 16 area, maybe Elite 8. I don't exactly remember, but that is going to be a very, very telling matchup if they can both get there. Who's going to be the contender for the final, but not to count on other teams like Notre Dame has had one of the strongest 7 season in a while, and a lot of those teams in the Atlantic Conference who have some great players. So there's a lot of contenders, but yeah, with the Wheeling Southern Virginia bracket region is going to be one to contend with.
And Pat, I mean, who's going to take out Brown? Are they the ones?
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it will not be UConn in the opening round. I know that's a bold statement, but I'll stake my name to it. No, AICs are the ones going bear hunting. They've been here. They've been at this stage in the semifinals the last few years. They have a world-class talent, Naomi Dodd, who's already capped for Jamaica and is absolutely lightning. And if you are going to make an upset, it helps to have a home run hitter on the team. And she's had some health issues this spring, so we'll see how healthy she is when she rocks up to Maryland. But if she's really good, I like the makeup of the team under their first-year head coach Jamison Bonte, and I think that they've got a good squad. So I don't know if they're able to do it, but you also got to look at other home run hitters like Talesi Uatafe. Is she going to get off the plane from the Pacific Nations 4 on Friday into Maryland on Saturday or Sunday and boot up for the Crimson Storm? If she does, man, I like Southern Nazarene's chances to be pretty good. And then Northern Iowa, it would be remiss if you didn't talk about Morgan Link and Macy Graves. Macy Graves was all-state wrestler in high school, state champion, and she's just a freshman at UNI. She is a freak. Keep an eye out for her. And Morgan Link, she's been in the 7s camp for the Eagles before, hasn't been capped yet, but I think that has a really bright future in high performance. So there's a lot of talent here, but are any of them going to be able to funnel it and knock off Brown? I got the Bears to 4, Pete.
Nice.
Guys, you mentioned some of the players there already. Any other players that we should be aware of that maybe flying under the radar or are primed to have a big standout on this stage?
Yeah, I've got a few. Sailor Russell, she's fantastic for Long Island in the Women's Premier Cup. She's LIU is making its debut here in this tournament, and I think that she's one to look out for. And I think I like their chances to beat Marist in the first round and even to advance past SNU or Aquinas. And if she gets to go up against Telesi in the second round, I think that'll be a good one. Scout Spadoni in Women's Division II. She was a Frostburg State All-Naira 2-time selection that's transferred mid-season here over to her home state school at Eau Claire. They've won this tournament a couple of times, and they're a contender too. And she's somebody to look out for who I think is really, really good. You look at women's D1 AA, across the board, there's some really good talent. Emily Ruiz at Arizona State's really, really good. At Iowa, you've got I'm struggling on her name, Jillian McCrae, the All-American, who's fantastic. So there's really good players across the board. Women's D2, Kariah Scott for Coastal Carolina has been absolutely stacking up tries. We mentioned Molly Cancian, Baldwin Wallace in Women's Division III. Piper Lee, primetime Piper Lee, led the Ore Diggers of Colorado School of Mines to a D3 national title in 15s in the fall. Can she do it with 7s this spring? I think she may be like the best high-performance Eagle WER talent potentially in all of D3. So that's on the women's side. There's some additional names. Zach, I'll let you take them in.
Absolutely. I mean, you start in the Premier Cup bracket. There's so many talented guys, and you talk about Wheeling being good, and they got richer this season with the addition of Taku Musanguini, who plied his trade for some time at Iowa Central Community College and is now running the show there for the Cardinals, and he is very good always. So St. Bonaventure, Manu Tawula is a fantastic athlete as well there, and a big part of what they're doing all the time. So I think those are some of the Premier bracket guys you want to definitely keep an eye on. There's so many names though that I can't even follow up. Yeah. But no
question and answer. I totally get it. You guys just rambled. You guys just bang, 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 listed them all. I thought that was pretty solid.
Yeah, there's definitely lower division too. You got definitely keep an eye out in Pat mentioned some Renheimer too, but lower divisions Anthony Rice at Denver there's plenty of good names farther down the list as well.
Well, you mentioned some great names, but any anticipated next level players you're talking about? Pat, you mentioned about some quality WER talent coming out here, but maybe some MLR, USA 7s or 15s, Zach?
I mean, I think Tulesi is definitely a name to keep an eye on for that's already obviously got a first cap for the Eagles. So, but yeah, Morgan Link, another one there as well. I think, I know that's a tough question. That's a good one. For any next time.
Indiana has a few, right? Like there's guys there like Parker Wall, whose older brother's already gotten opportunities with the national team. Chevalier, his little brother is there at IU. So IU has got a tradition of putting some guys on the national team. I think that there's a couple guys there for sure. One thing, you got to keep in mind is MLR is skewing more American. Some of the best talent in NCR, like in Wheeling, these guys are Zimbabwean capped. Like Taku Musanguini helped Zimbabwe win the Africa Cup and qualify for their first World Cup in 31 years. So is he an MLR level talent? Absolutely, but he's going to take a foreigner spot. So that's always kind of a murky water sometimes when you're talking about the talent at some of these schools is are they American? And the same thing on the Olympic side, they have to be a citizen basically to be Olympic eligible. Now there's plenty of talent across the board in these schools and in these programs. But that is one of the hurdles, for sure.
I want to shine a light, and I said shine a light there because I can't help but notice that Bill and Pat now are in the dark on us. Bill's struggling with some lighting issues. There you go, he just disappeared. But I want to talk about this. This has been the last couple of years. I think it's really cool that NCR and the Collegiate Rugby Championship has introduced a Hall of Fame, right? So this year's class includes a number of standouts, including Chris Mattina, who's been on this show before. And, hey, we've got to mention your college rugby show co-host, Darian Lovelace, is in the Hall of Fame. So the question is, will either one of you guys be giving the introductory speech for her?
Well, I will be on the field kind of giving the introductory bio for everybody. So I'll take that honor. But, no, it's going to be awesome to induct Darian, who, is well-deserving. And if you listen to Coach Roz Chow, who was her coach at Life that got them their 2 national championships and led them to those. And Darian was on both of those teams one time as the MVP. Darian probably should have been a little bit sooner. So maybe we're making up, getting there a little late with Darian, but she's going to be in. Doc Jones from Kutztown. He's coaching. So this year we have our first 2 active coaches who are coaching in the tournament being inducted because Chris Mattina is coaching Fordham. And Doc Jones is still at Kutztown, obviously, after 30 odd years. And I think 40 even now. And so he'll be inducted, as well as Rochelle Stevens, 2016 Olympian, 2-time champion of the CRC from Lindenwood. So we've got a great Hall of Fame induction class. But it is going to be a lot of fun sending our pal Darian in for sure.
I will be conducting. I won't be giving a speech, but I will be conducting the roast of Darian after the unofficial roast at the hotel. Too overconfident or something with that. What an honor, but no, he absolutely deserves it. She's wonderful to work with on the show too. So, definitely a Hall of Fame person. But if you guys want to join in on that, that'd be a lot of fun. If you have any material for me,
work on it. Well, I'll write it. We'll do a song, an introduction for it.
Of course, in past years, fans have been able to participate, in a March Madness style bracket challenge where they can pick the winners for every game. For those that aren't familiar, that's for both men and women across all divisions.
Yep. Yeah. Well, for the bracket challenge, it's Premier Cup on the men's side and the women's side. So you do have to pick all the way through, right? We have cascading brackets at the Collegiate Rugby Championship. So what's unique about this is it's, in order to win a national championship, you have to go undefeated and win every game, just like every other college playoff and every other sport. But if you lose in the first round, your day's not done. There's still something to play for. There's cascading brackets. There's plates, cups, bowls, shields, keeping in that Rugby Sevens tradition. So you do have to pick all the way through the consolation rounds of the women's and men's Premier Cup. But that is what the bracket challenge has. But this year, there is a new game in fantasy rugby, which will be announced and rolling out soon, where you have to pick 7 players, and you have to pick you can only pick from each division once. So if you pick, let's say there's 6 scoring categories, you've got tries, conversions, and points. All right. And you can pick 3 men, 3 women, and 1 for each scoring category, and then 1 wild card, but you cannot pick the same division twice. So I think that's really fun. It challenged you to know more about the women and the men and across the divisions. You got to know who can score at each level. So that fantasy game will be inclusive of everybody, which is going to be the first year we've ever done it. So keep an eye out as that gets announced.
Are you two legally allowed to do a bracket?
Oh yeah, we're putting it out there so just like everybody can roast us and tell us how stupid we are, like we do every year.
Well, how'd you do last year? Let's see how stupid you were. How'd you do last year?
Oh man, I have to. We make so many predictions on the show because NCR is like 800 teams, right? 144 teams, 8 divisions. You ever heard Kirk Herbstreit pick a Division III game? No, but we do it every week. So I have to, for my mental health, just
I'm hearing excuses
because otherwise it'd just be a kick in the pants every week.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we should do a friendly wager. Maybe it's the USA Rugby Happy Hour crew, Bill and I, versus Pat and Zach, and we'll stack up and see how we do. If I copy Zach's picks pick for pick, then maybe we got a shot at this. I don't know.
I'm going all long shots, man.
I like it. All right, so we'll do the traditional brackets, but then I'm also going to challenge you to Women's Division 2. You have to old school print off a bracket, fill it out. And we'll just text each other, and we'll keep track of that one too.
All right, Fitzy, you get that one.
And then if you are really brave, you'll take Zach up on a D3 bracket challenge as well, men's D3.
Hold on.
Yeah, that one I usually do, but there's no evidence of that out there. You got to take my word for it.
Yeah, might have to. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. Okay, this is getting into trouble. Well, at least we haven't bet I don't know. I have to wear like a Yankees jersey or something. Sorry, I'm a Sox fan. To be a rugby version of it. Oh boy, Zach, Pat, this has been a blast. We really appreciate this, and we cannot wait for this weekend. And we can't wait to see you guys doing your thing.
Yeah, man, it's going to be fun. Not just the College Rugby Show Live. We're going to be out there pretending to be Kirk Herbstreit and Lee Corso out on the booth, and we'll be there Friday with you live and Saturday twice. And this year, finally, the Hall of Fame induction is going to be live, so you can actually tune in and watch Darian and her inductee classmates get inducted together. And then Sunday on the All Women's Sports Network for the first time is where you can catch the Women's Championship block and us at the desk. So it's going to be a great weekend.
Yeah, I can't wait. I hope everyone tunes in to our shows, especially if we want to guide through, the weekend. We have pretty good knowledge on all the teams and the players and the storylines, but just watch as many games as you can because there's so many amazing things happen in these tournaments on every field that it's just like it blows my mind every year. And then the spectacle gets even bigger and brighter. So I encourage people who can to attend in person as well because we have so many great fan engagement things going on in the stadium that it's really worth the price of admission for all 3 days. So tune in any way you can, get a piece of this because it's magic every year and it's really worth everybody's time.
And it's really grown since day one. It's really become this big, massive thing. And congratulations to you guys on all that. Gentlemen, we're going to do something we don't usually do. We're going to say goodbye with our guests listening in. I usually kick them off while they're saying goodbye to me, like right in the middle of goodbye. We're going to leave you on. So hold on. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. It's been a blast talking to these two and having John Fitzpatrick next to me. Tune into the CRCs this weekend. And please like, follow, and subscribe. And can't wait for you guys to check out our next episode next week or two. Have a great day, everybody.